My name is Clarisse Harlow, and last Thanksgiving, my daughter-in-law looked me straight in the eye and told me my free ride was over. We were sitting at a long dining table, turkey steaming in the center, laughter still echoing from the children a few minutes earlier. Then Melissa, perfect hair, perfect manicure, perfect smile, set down her wine glass and said, "Starting next month, the guest room will cost you $2,300. For a second, I thought I had misheard her. Around us, 15 family members went silent. Forks hovered in midair. My son Jason stared at his mashed potatoes like they might save him. My own fork felt heavy in my hand. I looked around the table at the house I had lived in for 3 years. It wasn't just a house, it was mine. Richard and I had bought it back in 1984 with his veterans loan, paid off the mortgage in 2010, and called it our forever home. When he died, Jason told me moving in with them would keep me from being alone. I believed him. Melissa smiled sweetly, the kind of smile that doesn't reach the eyes. "If you can't afford it," she said, "there's always the senior shelter downtown. They have programs for people like you." People like me. The words landed like a slap. I had been a nurse for decades before raising 3 kids. I had supported Richard's career through deployments and illness. And now I was being told at my own Thanksgiving table that I was a freeloader in the very home we had built. I didn't argue, I didn't shout. Just sat there, my heart pounding in my ears. I remembered Richard's voice in my head. "Keep every document, Clarisse. Documentation is protection." I had no idea yet how much I would need that protection or how close I had come to losing everything. Before that dinner, my life had been shaped by 42 years of marriage to Richard Harlow. We met when I was 23, him fresh out of the Navy, me working double shifts at a hospital in Portland. He had a quiet steadiness that made me feel safe from the moment we spoke. We didn't have much, but we had each other, and we built everything from there. Richard worked in construction after the service, and I continued nursing until our first child, Jason, was born. 2 daughters followed, Emily and Grace, and I made the same decision many women in my generation did. I stayed home. I ran the household, cared for our kids, and made sure Richard could focus on his work. We weren't rich, but we were disciplined. Every bonus check, every tax refund went into savings. We skipped vacation so we could save for a down payment. In 1984, after years of scrimping, we bought this house in Maplewood, Oregon. 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, a backyard where our kids could play until the streetlights came on. I still remember the day we signed the papers. Richard squeezed my hand and said, "This is our safety net, Clarisse. Whatever happens, this house will be ours. No one can take it from us." He was right. We paid off the mortgage in 2010. That night, we grilled steaks, drank cheap champagne, and danced in the kitchen to our wedding song. It felt like we'd crossed the finish line of a race we'd been running our whole adult lives. 6 years later, our world shifted. Richard was diagnosed with pulmonary fibrosis, damage from the chemicals he'd been exposed to during his Navy days. We fought hard, but the disease was merciless. It was gone within 2 years. After the funeral, the house felt like an empty shell. I'd catch myself setting out 2 coffee mugs in the morning. My daughters lived far away, Emily in Boston, Grace in Denver, each with her own family and challenges. Jason lived just 20 minutes away with his wife Melissa and their 2 children, Chloe and Sam. One Sunday afternoon, Jason sat across from me at my kitchen table. "Mom, why don't you come stay with us for a while? Just until you feel stronger. You shouldn't be alone in this big house." Melissa backed him up, all smiles and warmth. The kids missed their grandma. It would be so nice to have me closer. It felt like an answer to a prayer. I packed up my essentials, donated Richard's tools to the local veterans group, sold most of my furniture, and moved into their guest room. It's a Maplewood house, too full of memories to sell, sat empty. I told myself it was temporary. That family would keep me safe. For the first 6 months, it was exactly what I needed. I cooked Sunday dinners, helped with homework, and tucked the kids into bed. I felt useful again. Melissa would join me for coffee in the mornings, asking about Richard in our early years. It felt like I had a place. I didn't know that sense of belonging had an expiration date. It started so quietly that I almost didn't notice. Melissa got a promotion, marketing director at a regional firm. Overnight, her schedule was packed with client dinners, photo shoots, and networking events. She came home in sleek suits instead of jeans, talking about elevating our lifestyle and curating our brand. Jason, still working as a civil engineer, seemed to shrink next to her new status. The first change was the house. Contractors came and went, measuring, painting, replacing. The living room was transformed with a designer sofa and imported rugs. The kitchen gleamed with new marble counters. But my guest room, just down the hall from their master suite, remained untouched. The paint was dull, the carpet worn. It felt intentional, like a silent reminder that I was temporary. Melissa began to sigh whenever she saw me in the kitchen. She'd drop hints about the rising utility bills or make comments about how busy the laundry machine had been lately. At first, I tried to ignore it, telling myself she was stressed from work, but the warmth in her voice had cooled. Then came the small exclusions. She started sending Chloe and Sam upstairs to do their homework right after school. They need to focus, she'd say, ushering them away when they ran in for hugs. One evening, I overheard Chloe asking if she could read with me after dinner. And Melissa's reply was a crisp, "Grandma's tired. Leave her alone." I wasn't tired, was being erased. The turning point came late one night. I got up to get a glass of water and heard voices behind their bedroom door. Melissa's was sharp, Jason's low and defensive. "Your mother is becoming a burden," Melissa said. "She contributes nothing." "She's my mom," Jason murmured, "and I'm your wife. We have our own family to think about: college funds, retirement. We can't keep spending on someone who refuses to help herself." I froze. I bought my own groceries, paid for my medications, never asked them for a dime. But in Melissa's story, I was dead weight. The next week, I found a stack of nursing home brochures in the recycling bin. A few days later, I walked into the kitchen to see Melissa quickly closing her laptop. "Research for work," she said. Too fast. But the screen had shown search terms like Medicare beds available and expedited placement. For the first time since moving in, I felt a twinge of fear. Richard's voice whispered in my mind, "Documentation is protection." I didn't know it yet, but I was going to need every scrap of it. Thanksgiving was supposed to be about family, gratitude, and the smell of pumpkin pie drifting from the oven. Instead, it became the moment everything cracked open. We were all at the table: Jason, Melissa, their kids, aunts, uncles, cousins, 15 people in all. Plates were full, conversation easy. Then Melissa set down her wine glass, leaned forward, and in a voice that carried to every corner of the room, said, "That's actually below market rate, Clarisse. I'm being generous." Forks froze midair. Conversations died. My sister-in-law Janice's mouth fell open. Jason kept his eyes on his mashed potatoes. I blinked, certain I'd misunderstood. "I'm sorry, what?" "You heard me," Melissa replied, folding her napkin with precision. "And if you can't afford it, there's always the senior shelter downtown. They have programs for people in your situation. Your situation." Like I was some charity case, not a 70-year-old woman who had spent decades raising 3 children. I stared at Jason. Nothing, not a word. Janice spoke up. "Melissa, this is Clarisse's home too. She's family." Melissa's laugh was sharp. "Family contributes. Family doesn't sit around while others pay the bills." I wanted to tell her I paid for my own groceries, my own prescriptions, everything except the roof, which technically I had already paid for decades ago, but I didn't. My heart was pounding too hard. My mind was already drifting back to Richard's voice. "Keep the papers safe, Clarisse. Documentation is protection." I excused myself and shut the door to my room, the so-called guest room, and sat on the bed. My mind spun. I thought of my house in Maplewood, the one Jason had told me we'd figure out later. I hadn't been inside in 3 years, but the deed was still in my name. The next morning, I called my oldest friend, Marion. She'd known Richard and me since before we married. When I told her what had happened, she didn't sound shocked. She sounded furious. Clarisse, whose name is on that deed? Mine? I said slowly. Mine and Richard's, but he's gone, so ... So it's yours, she finished. And why are you living like a tenant when you own property outright? Her words landed heavy. That night, I dug out the small lockbox from under my bed. Inside were all the important papers Richard and I had kept: insurance, military records. And there it was, the deed to the Maplewood house. My name printed clear as day. Under it, a note in Richard's handwriting. Clarisse, this is yours always. Don't let anyone take it from you. I pressed the paper to my chest, the sting of tears sharp in my eyes. A week later, I sat in attorney Daniel Collins's office. He ran a quick title search. Clarisse, he said, brows knitting. Your house is still in your name, but 6 months ago someone filed a loan application using it as collateral. The signature doesn't match yours. It was Melissa's plan, clear as daylight. Get me to sign something under pressure. Claim power of attorney. Sell my house and leave me with nothing. Daniel's voice cut through my shock. The good news: you still hold all the legal cards. The bad news: you're living under the same roof as the people who tried to take them. The Saturday after Thanksgiving, Melissa came to my room at 7 o'clock in the morning. All business. 2 movers in matching polo shirts stood behind her, boxes in hand. Morning, Clarisse. The guest room is needed for other purposes, so since you haven't agreed to pay rent, you'll need to vacate today. I've already arranged a room for you at Silver Pines Assisted Living. I'll thank me later. She tried to step inside, but I stood my ground. Don't touch anything. Melissa tilted her head like she was humoring a child. Clarisse, let's not make this difficult. I can call the police and tell them you're trespassing in our home. Our home. That was the last straw. Actually, I said, reaching for the folder on my dresser. It's my home. It's paid off in 2010. Title's in my name. I have the deed right here. The movers shifted uncomfortably. Melissa blinked, her confident smirk faltering. Jason, she called over her shoulder. He appeared in the hallway, hair mussed from sleep, eyes wary. What's going on? Clarisse thinks she owns this place, Melissa said with a brittle laugh. I held the deed up between us. Think? I know. And here's something else. Loan applications with a forged signature using this house as collateral. Daniel Collins, my attorney, has copies. He's also found 3 credit cards opened in my name. That's identity theft, Melissa. A federal crime. Melissa's face went pale. Jason looked like he might be sick. I stepped forward, my voice steady. You have 30 minutes to remove anything that's actually yours. After that, the locks change. Jason finally spoke. Mom, wait. No. You had a choice to protect me, and you didn't. You stood by while she tried to steal the house your father worked his life for. Melissa tried to rally. Clarisse, you've been forgetting things, leaving the stove on. We were just trying to make sure you were safe. Nice try. I've already had a full medical evaluation this week. Perfectly sound mind. Thank you. That line won't work in court. I could see her calculating, trying to find a way out, but I didn't give her one. I picked up my phone. Shall I call the police now, or will you leave voluntarily? She grabbed Jason's arm and stormed off toward their bedroom, muttering under her breath. Drawers slammed, suitcases zipped. The movers had already retreated to their truck. 27 minutes later, Melissa's SUV screeched out of the driveway, Jason following behind in his pickup. I watched from the front window, the deed still in my hand. For the first time in years, I felt the house exhale like it knew it was mine again. By Monday morning, Daniel Collins had already filed criminal complaints: identity theft, fraud, elder abuse, and attempted grand larceny. The district attorney's office called it a solid case with a clean paper trail. Melissa's bravado collapsed quickly once the police got involved. Within a week, she was served with a court summons. Jason was named as an accomplice. Both denied everything at first, but the documents told a different story. Loan applications, forged signatures, intercepted mail, and bank statements showing charges I'd never made. The news spread fast in Maplewood. Neighbors who'd waved politely before were now stopping me in the driveway, offering words of support. Marion came by almost every day, bringing coffee and reminding me to keep my phone close. "They'll try to rattle you," she warned. "But you've got truth on your side." The preliminary hearing was surreal. Melissa sat at the defense table in a tailored navy suit, hair immaculate, acting like the wronged party. Jason looked smaller somehow, his eyes darting anywhere but toward me. My turn on the witness stand came, and I told the story plainly. No embellishments, just the facts. The jury didn't need drama. The betrayal spoke for itself. Under cross-examination, Melissa's lawyer tried to paint me as confused, a bitter mother-in-law holding a grudge. "I'm not bitter," I said, looking straight at him. "I'm a homeowner who caught someone trying to steal what my husband and I built over a lifetime. That's not bitterness, that's justice." Jason's testimony didn't help him. He admitted knowing about the credit cards and loan applications, but claimed Melissa handled all the finances, and he didn't understand the details. The prosecutor pointed out that he had benefited from every stolen dollar. New pool, remodeled kitchen, private school tuition. The verdict came down. Guilty on all counts for Melissa, guilty of accomplice charges for Jason. Melissa was sentenced to 4 years in state prison with mandatory restitution. Jason received 18 months of probation and was also ordered to pay restitution. The court granted me a protective order barring either of them from contacting me directly. When it was over, Daniel shook my hand. "You've done more than win a case, Clarisse. You've set a precedent." I walked out of the courthouse into a crisp winter afternoon, the deed to my home tucked safely in my bag. For the first time in months, the air felt lighter. Justice had been served, and my home was truly mine again. The weeks after the trial felt like a deep exhale I didn't realize I'd been holding. My house, was quiet again. No slammed doors, no sharp voices drifting down the hallway. Just the steady hum of the refrigerator and the creak of the old floorboards under my slippers. I changed the locks, repainted my guest room, and replaced the worn carpet with warm oak flooring. It wasn't about erasing the past. It was about reclaiming the space. The marble kitchen counters Melissa had chosen sparkled under the morning sun, and for the first time, they felt like mine. Marian introduced me to the local senior center, where I started attending weekly coffee mornings and craft workshops. Before long, I was giving short talks about financial awareness, how to check your credit report, keep legal documents secure, and spot the warning signs of financial abuse. People listened. They asked questions. They told me their own stories. One afternoon after a workshop, a woman my age hugged me with tears in her eyes. "You made me realize I don't have to feel guilty for protecting what's mine," she whispered. That meant more to me than any court ruling. I also started tending the garden again, planting tulips Richard had loved. In the evenings, I'd sit by the pool with a cup of tea, the water reflecting the soft glow of the porch light. This was the peace I thought I'd lost forever. Jason hasn't tried to see me since sentencing, and I'm at peace with that. Melissa's absence is a relief. My daughters call more often now, checking in, asking about my day. Trust will take time, but it's a start. I'd survived betrayal, fought for justice, and rebuilt my life on my own terms. And every time I turned the key in my front door, I was reminded, I'm home. If there's one thing my journey has taught me, it's this. Gratitude should never come at the cost of your dignity. And trust should never replace vigilance. I loved my family, but love doesn't mean turning a blind eye to betrayal. Richard used to say, "Keep your paperwork in order, Clarisse. You never know when you'll need it." I didn't realize how right he was until the day I had to hold up my deed like a shield. Family isn't just the people you're related to. It's the people who respect you, stand with you, and protect what matters to you. Sometimes that's blood. Sometimes it's friends who become your chosen family. If you're listening to this and you've ever felt cornered, diminished, or taken advantage of, remember you have the right to protect yourself. Keep your documents safe, know your rights, and never apologize for taking up space in your own life.